It's the Beth Cahill Show. And now, here's Beth.
Good morning and welcome to the Beth Cahill Show. Thank you for spending part of your Saturday morning with me. I have a lot to get through this morning. I want to break down the future of the Democratic primary after the wins and losses that occurred on Super Tuesday. We will go through the remaining 4 Democratic candidates, where we think they stand, and all of the coronavirus updates that I have up to this point. So I want to start there. I want to start with the coronavirus because that is an issue that has been very concerning to our country right now, but it has been especially concerning for our very own community in King County. So let's start with what we know, and then I would like to share a story with you about a very close friend of mine and the experience that they had dealing with their very own flu-like symptoms and what occurred next in our community. So at this point, there are 232 cases in the United States. 70 of that 232 cases are occurring in Washington state, and 12 people that have died. So this is a virus that spreads similar to the flu, and folks that are elderly or have underlying health conditions are the most at risk. It appears that there are 2 strains of this virus. There is an L strain and there is an S strain. And one of the strains are more severe than the other. And fortunately, from what we are hearing, we have gotten the less severe strain that is circulating in the United States. That could change. It could change at any minute, as can any of these numbers that I've just shared with you, because it is a very fluid situation and numbers seem to be changing by the hour. Congress this week passed a funding bill for roughly $8 billion to combat this virus, and the president signed it yesterday. So hopefully states are going to start to see some of that money coming in very shortly. $950 million of that $8 billion will be headed to Washington state. So that's good news, right? That is the good news. The good news is that we have money coming in, and hopefully that is going to start to shore up some of the complaints that we have seen. As far as our state goes, though, I am trying the best that I can to give credit to the healthcare providers, everyone that is on the front lines of this, because they are working tirelessly to keep this contained. I do believe that there are far more cases out there than what we are reporting, because, for anyone living in our area in King County, you would know that there are people out there that are showing symptoms that are not able to get tested. The personal story that I'm going to share with you is about a friend of mine who was experiencing all of the symptoms of this virus. Well, actually, besides fever, right? They had shortness of breath, the chills, cough, runny nose, sore throat. And when this person tried to get into their primary care doctor, they were told that they would not see patients that had any flu-like symptoms. So that instead they were told to download an app, schedule a virtual appointment. Yes, download an app and schedule a virtual appointment. That is what this person was told. So that is what they did. They waited 5 hours for the virtual appointment, where they essentially Skyped with a doctor from their home. So the doctor, after hearing these symptoms and everything that person was experiencing, they had prescribed Tamiflu, an inhaler, and they basically said hopefully that the Tamiflu would knock it out and that it was influenza that they actually had. So fast forward, though, about 35 to 40 hours later, symptoms were not getting better. This person then had another virtual appointment, where at that appointment they were told to actually go into the ER. They were going to call the ER ahead of time, which is, kind of protocol at this moment. You've got to call ahead before you come. And there they waited several hours to be seen. When they were finally seen, they were tested for several things. None of those things happened to be the coronavirus testing, because since this person had not traveled internationally, or that they know of had not had contact with anyone from China or Italy, and last being that they did not have a fever, they were told they were not high risk enough to test. So I went over all of the symptoms that they had. So they had, 7 out of 8 of the symptoms, but they were not deemed high risk enough to test. This is not meant to be a knock on our healthcare system. I'm trying to show you that there are probably more people out there that have this in the community. The US is being hit, one of the hardest countries on this, in particular King County. where this person lives. So it seems to me that a more appropriate question would have been, who has this person had contact with in our own community, to trace those steps back, considering it's this community that is being hit so hard and community spread is taking place here. So again, I share that story with you to highlight what people are going through in our area. There are several more stories just like that one. I realize that people are working on more testing kits, but not all of the people that have tested positive for coronavirus have had a fever. So if you're seeing 90% of the symptoms and we're not testing people that don't have a fever, I don't feel like that seems the most effective route to go. Again, in South Korea, people can literally drive up to a testing center, get tested in their car, and they'll be well on their way. Compare that to the United States, where people with symptoms aren't even being tested. We call ourselves premier healthcare in all of the world, and it's times like now that needs to be on full display. So there is a bit of positive news with this, and that was that UW was just given the green light to be basically ground zero for testing kits. So I'm hoping that we hear far less of those stories like I just shared with you, and more people are able to be tested so we can get, a further handle on where we're at with people that have this virus so we can stop the spread. I will, again, continue to update you each week, as things become available. And again, some of those numbers could be off every hour. We're hearing more and more. So I'm going to move on from coronavirus. I want to talk about Super Tuesday and what it all means now. So Joe Biden, by all accounts, had a great night. He picked up far more delegates than anyone projected, including myself. I thought Bernie Sanders would come out with more delegates than Joe Biden, and that's not what happened. No one saw that coming. So I do want to be clear about something, though. Joe Biden having such a strong night was largely due to Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar getting out of the race before Super Tuesday. That allowed any moderate Democrat that was undecided to consolidate their vote to Joe Biden, which polling suggested that all of the late deciders went for Joe Biden. So it's not that everyone was completely off. It's that no one projected Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg would get out before Super Tuesday, which is exactly what happened. And as far as Bernie went, right, he wasn't so lucky. He still had Elizabeth Warren in the race, and she kind of helped split that progressive vote. Had she jumped out, or had Bernie jumped out of the race before that, the progressive vote would have consolidated around one of those candidates. And the numbers show just that too. The numbers show that if Elizabeth Warren would not have been in the race, and I'm only using her because she eventually is the one who dropped out of the race, that Bernie Sanders could have won a lot more of those states that Joe Biden did. So Elizabeth Warren ended up dropping out of the race 2 days after Super Tuesday, but again, too late for progressives to consolidate around one of them. When she was asked if she would endorse Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, I want to have you listen to her reply.
Senator Warren, will you be making an endorsement today? We know that you spoke with both Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders yesterday.
Not today.
Not today.
I need some space around this, and want to take a little time to think a little more. I've been spending a lot of time right now on the question of suspending and also making sure that this works as best we can for our staff, for our team, for our volunteers.
So it could be coming, but just not right now.
Not right now.
So there you have it. People, are projecting who she's going to support. Whoever she does decide to endorse, it will be a great, great thing for them because, that will allow a lot of the women that are supporting her to possibly shift to that candidate that she endorsed. I do think it'd be odd if she did not endorse Bernie Sanders because ideologically, they align far more than an Elizabeth Warren and a Joe Biden. Mike Bloomberg, though, he also dropped out after Super Tuesday, throwing his support behind the former Vice President Joe Biden. So as it stands now, Joe Biden has 596 delegates. Bernie Sanders has 526. And that is of the 1,991 of the total pledged delegates needed to secure that Democratic nomination. So Joe Biden, he looks to be in command right now. And when I say command, I am truly only referring to command in delegates. Because if you were to listen to Joe Biden out on the campaign trail, as I'm sure, most of you have, nothing about this man screams in command. Joe Biden seems confused all the time. At one point, he couldn't remember that he was running for president, instead, asking people to support him in a Senate run. Listen here to this.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you like what you see, help out. If not, vote for the other guy. Give me a look, though, okay?
He went on to mistake 150,000 gun deaths, as we discussed last week, to 150 million. Listen to this.
150 million people have been killed since 2007 when Bernie voted to exempt the gun manufacturers from liability.
During his Super Tuesday victory speech, he appeared to confuse his wife with his sister. Listen here.
By the way, this is my little sister, Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh, no, you switched on me. This is my wife. This is my sister. They switched on me.
And a few days ago, once again, he forgot Obama's name. And this is not the first time this has happened. I want to play a montage of all the times that Joe Biden has forgotten Barack Obama's name. Listen here.
I got assault weapons banned for 10 years. It had to be reauthorized because of hanging chads in Florida. The last president said, no, I'm not going to reauthorize. Because they invaded another country and annexed a significant portion of it called Crimea. Right. He's saying that it was my boss, it was his fault. They're going to have a conversion of the road to Damascus. Because now you say, by the way, are you going to stick with the president on the following president, the last guy, on this issue? And just start naming them, whatever it is.
I mean, here is the deal. There's something obviously going on with Joe Biden. And for all of the times that people have discussed President Trump's health, I mean, CNN every week seems to have on a new doctor talking about President Trump's health and how, you know, he's so unhealthy mentally, physically, emotionally. I mean, that's a once in a week occurrence. I think it's far past time that we can discuss Joe Biden and his health. I mean, this is a man running to be president of the United States. It should not be controversial to want to talk about his health. President Trump appeared on a town hall this week on Fox News, and it was truly Trump at his best. He was connecting with voters in a way that only Trump can do. He was straight with his answers when voters asked him questions. He did not mince words, not that he ever does. I did want to share a clip with you, a few of those clips actually, in case you missed this town hall, because I think it was great. The president was asked who he would rather run against, Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders. And this is how he responded.
So you want to face Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders? That's my question.
I'll tell you, I was all set for Bernie because I thought it was going to happen. We get ready for things, right? So mentally, I'm all set for Bernie. Communist, I had everything down. He's a communist. I was all set. And then we have this crazy thing that happened, right, on Tuesday, which he thought was Thursday. But he also said 150 million people were killed with guns, and he was running for the United States Senate. Support me, I'm running for the United States. There's something going on there. But I was all set. And, you know, when I focus and we all focus, sometimes you do well and some people choke. I watched Mini Mike choke. When Mini Mike was hit by a very mean woman, he said, get me off this stage, just get me off. And that wasn't a pretty sight to be. But I was all set to take on Bernie. I was ready. And then all of a sudden I say, guess what? I went to the First Lady, who people love. I go into the First Lady. And I said, he just won Texas. He just won, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, so close. It was a whole different thing because of her. So now I'm ready for Bernie, and now all of a sudden I have a whole different, you know, it's a whole different deal, two very different people. I think in a certain way Bernie would be tougher because he's got a base. It's a much smaller base than my base. I think a lot of my people are here because, and I did nothing to do that, but we have a lot of support in Pennsylvania, and I think we have a lot of support everywhere. Look at the rallies. Look at the rallies. But I was all set. I was all set for Bernie. I was ready to go. And then I say, you know, I don't think I'm running against Bernie. I think it's going to be very hard for him to come back.
This is vintage Trump, right? I mean, he's funny, he's relatable, and he talks to you like you're a normal person, right? Like an everyday American that he deals with all the time. He does not talk to you like he's been poll tested or his answers have been poll tested. And it's really refreshing to see in a politician because you don't see it very often. He was also asked a question from a Trump voter. Mind you, this guy was a Trump voter. And this is a question that I think is worth sharing because I think people often wonder about this. The voter asked him a question about his controversial tweets or just controversial tone altogether and how he thought that Trump could maybe move to unite people instead. And here is how he responded.
Last year was the greatest year we've ever had economically. And I think the way we unite is really through success. But when they hit us, we have to hit back. I feel that. I mean, there's two ways of doing it, turning your cheek. But I wouldn't be sitting up here if I turned my cheek. If I said, OK, let them just keep hitting at me and I won't do it. They're not interviewing me right now. They're interviewing somebody else. Maybe they won't even be doing that. Because if they don't get ratings, they don't interview anybody. That I've learned. But you know what? You can't turn your cheek. I mean, we get hit. Thank you. You look good for that. We get hit so hard, and we have a media that is, I say to a large extent, it's a part of the Democrat Party. It really is. It's terrible.
So this was a great answer from the president, right? This is, whether you like this president or not, why people voted for him. If you are someone who has been a Republican for a really long time, to have someone actually come in and start fighting back, it was an amazing thing to see. For far too long, Republicans tried to, as people suggest Trump do, turn the other cheek, right? Or they would cover and run when a negative story came out, whether the story was true or not, or when they were called a racist. They were constantly apologizing for everything. It truly became a tactic for Democrats to, in a sense, own Republicans because they never fought back. You knew that you could attack them and they would say nothing. And because of that, when candidate Trump came along, people latched on to this man in hopes that he was who they had been longing for so long, right? They rolled the dice on President Trump. And when it turned out that not only did he fight back, but he also kept his promises, it was game over for anyone else. 90% of the Republican Party gave him their loyalty, and they've never looked back. You see it time and time again in all of the Republican approval polls. He sits at 90 to 95%. I mean, the untold story of Super Tuesday, besides the Democrats, and I understand that that's the story that people need to talk about because they are the ones running against this president. But, another untold story of Super Tuesday were some of the numbers on the Republican side. There was a lot for Republicans to be excited about. Trump is basically, an uncontested incumbent, and he broke several turnout and vote counts in not just swing states, but in blue states. I mean, if you take some blue states, for example, you've got Vermont and Minnesota. Trump's vote totals beat every past incumbent in 40 years. I mean, The Hill had a great story on this. They broke this down in state after state after state. And, take Massachusetts. Trump had a higher vote total in Massachusetts than past Republicans since before Reagan. And the same is said for Maine. The president's vote total performed better than any other primary since Reagan in Maine as well. In California, of all places, and this is before all numbers had been reported, Trump had received 1.4 million votes. We're talking about California, people, 1.4 million. In Colorado, Republican turnout was greater than the past three Republican primaries combined. Those are not Republican-controlled states. The Republican-controlled states, though, were just as enthusiastic. Brad Parscale, President Trump's digital marketing manager, he has shared internal data from the president's rallies that he does across the country, and the numbers that he shared seem to really match what the Super Tuesday primaries showed. Part of that is that roughly 25% of people attending Trump rallies are Democrats. It's a crazy number. 25% of people attending his rallies are Democrats. there are 10 to 15% more that attend the rallies that also didn't vote in 2016. So you got 25% of them that are Democrats. You got another 10 to 15% that never voted in 2016. I mean, those are important numbers because they show support for this president is growing. People talk a lot about the African American vote being really important, and it is. But the Latino vote is also very important. And his support amongst Latinos seems to also be increasing. In Nevada, which went for Hillary Clinton in 2016, the president just had another rally there, and 27% of the people that were there were Black or Latino. The president had this to say to the Latino community.
At every level of government, our nation is truly blessed to be defended by thousands of Hispanic American heroes, and that's what they are. Today, we give thanks to the millions of wonderful Latino immigrants and citizens who uphold our laws, strengthen our families, and contribute to our communities. They build incredible businesses like we've just seen, and raise up our industries and protect our great American flag. So important. Our Latino communities have always been a vital and indispensable part of the American family. From the beginning of our republic, the exceptional drive, talent, faith, skill, imagination, and devotion of Latino Americans has uplifted our entire nation. You've deeply enriched American life and history and culture. Latinos have invigorated our economy, expanded our prosperity, and poured your heart, sweat, and soul into our beloved country. Today, we express our gratitude and appreciation to each and every one of you for keeping America safe, strong, proud, prosperous, and free. And together, we are making America greater than ever before. I'd like to just say this has been a great honor to be with you. I'm with you all the way. We're working together really brilliantly, hand in hand. And I just leave by saying God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
I've said it before, and I will say it again. If this president can get to just 15 to 20% of the African American vote and increase his Latino vote by just a few percentage points from 2016, and obviously while doing that, holding on to his 2016 supporters, he will win re-election by a landslide. Republicans also are knocking on the door to take back the House. Results in California alone indicate that Republicans can flip up to 9 congressional seats. That is just in California. I mean, it's incredible. Some of these numbers are absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, that is it for me today. I do appreciate you listening to the Beth Cahill Show. I hope you will tune in again next week, and I hope you have a great Saturday. Thanks again for tuning in.
This has been the Beth Cahill Show. If you have any feedback for Beth or would like to suggest a future topic or guest for the show, email beth@thebethcahillshow.com. That's Beth at thebethcahill, spelled CAHILL, show.com. Tune in again next Saturday morning at 9 for more of the Beth Cahill Show, right here on AM 1590. The Answer.